Today, I'm going to show you how to film an epic cinematic B-roll sequence. Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Alex Perry, and I'm a filmmaker and content creator based out of Toronto, Canada. Now, before we get started, I would absolutely appreciate if you would support the channel and just hit that subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to me. Also, while you're at it, why don't you head over to Instagram and follow me at Alex S. Perry. That's the best way to connect with me, and even if you want to reach out and have a conversation on tips and tricks on how to get started, anything related to filmmaking, or even starting a YouTube channel. So follow me over on Instagram. Alright, so now let's get to it. So you've probably seen a bunch of videos on Instagram or on YouTube lately of these epic cinematic B-roll sequences. Now people like Schiffer and Lindgren have made this style of video super popular lately. I feel like everybody's giving it a shot and trying their hand at making a sequence like this. So I figured I think it's time for me to do this as well and show you guys my take on how we can do, or how we can film a cinematic sequence like this. Okay, so first things first, before we do an actual deep dive into the actual behind the scenes footage I shot of making this sequence, I'm just gonna go over a few pointers and tips on how to get started before you actually film anything. So the first thing I like to do is plan out all the individual steps that there are to whatever it is the action or sequence that it is that you're filming. So in my case, we're making hot chocolate. So there's definitely certain steps you have to take if you want to make a hot chocolate. After you've jotted down each individual step there is to this, that's when you can start trying to plan out what the different camera movements and actions are going to be. So I'm just going to give you a few tips right now to get things going. Now before you actually film anything, I think the number one key to this whole thing is making sure you're shooting in manual focus mode. For a sequence like this, manual focus is key because if you're going to be moving around and creating all these interesting dynamic shots, you want to control what's in focus and where the focus goes. Right? So if I'm following a quick action, so going across the table, going up and then back down, you know, the autofocus could throw off to the completely wrong spot in that. So you would be doing so many more takes than you need to just to get focus alone, and that's not to even account for all the mistakes you'll be making with your model, your actor, whoever's helping you out. So I'm gonna pull up my phone here so that I can pull up my video and I can look at it while I am explaining this to you. Okay, so the first shot we have is with the cocoa powder. So if something isn't really exciting or there's not much to it, you're gonna wanna add a little flair to it. So in our case, it's just a can of cocoa powder. So instead of just opening it up and taking the spoon, putting it in and pouring it out, we decided to have a bit of an action to this can. So I had Kristen slide the can across, grab it, and flip the lid off, right? So while doing that, I followed her action of sliding it. So I got the camera directly in front and I slid it across and I followed it up as she picked it up to flip off the lid, right? So that I think makes a much more interesting opening shot than her just grabbing it and taking the lid off. Okay, then for the next shot, it's a very simple shot as well. It's just sticking a spoon into a can of cocoa powder and scooping it up. So once again, that's a very boring, simple action. So to make it more interesting, I wanted to have this cool camera movement. So it's kind of twisting and it's zooming in towards it. So the best way to do something like this is to do it in reverse. So I had Kristen hold the spoon already full, already up out of the can. I put the camera in my ending position where I wanted it to be. I focused it on that. Then I pulled back and twisted the camera out so it's going out of focus. So as we approach our third shot now, once again, pretty straightforward, which a lot of these shots are. A lot of them are gonna be straightforward, simple shots. So I wanted to do like a simple fade transition from the cocoa powder in the spoon to the cocoa powder in the pot. So that's what we did there. And once again, just to make it a little more interesting, I decided to pre-focus as the camera was pulled out a little bit. And then I just brought it in, started off a little bit closer, more zoomed into the pot. And as I had Kristen pour the milk, I decided to pull the camera out as I was rotating it, like so, right? So that just, once again, creates a little more motion and adds a little bit more dynamism to the shot. After this, I knew I wanted a proper pouring shot of the milk, so I decided to get down low. Now I forgot to film the actual behind the scenes shot of that, but very, very simple. I just kind of crouched down at the stovetop. I did bring the pot forward actually, like off the main burner because it was at the burner on the far left side. I wanted to bring it in closer so that when I aimed the camera up from down below, it would be at the edge there and you nicely see, you know, the what do you call that thing? Measuring cup. So you'll see the measuring cup and pouring the milk as it's going in there, right? So for a shot like that, I feel like the pouring milk just has this, I don't know, something soothing and calming about seeing like a milk stream pouring like that. So I didn't really want to have a crazy movement or action for this part of it. Then I knew, I think, from the moment I decided to do a hot chocolate sequence, that I wanted to have a top-down shot with the camera following the whisk or spoon as it was stirring the pot. So I tried to keep the lens focused on the whisk the whole time, so it was following it in the exact same motion. And I knew I wanted to just do 1, 2, 3, and then roll the camera out. Okay, so for our next shot, it was grabbing the marshmallows. I realized this was the perfect opportunity to do a seamless transition from that previous shot into this one. So I decided to roll the camera in to focus on the bowl with the marshmallows, then follow the hand up over to where the mug is, and then release the marshmallows so they can fall into the mug. I figured something dropping or falling always looks cool in slow motion. So yeah, so I thought that would be really cool to transition from the roll in, the movement, and then slow motion shot of them falling into the mug. The next action was pouring the hot chocolate, so we filmed it out of order. Did the top down one first, which is what you can see over here. Then we brought the camera back out from the front, had her pour it again. This time I just kind of slowly zoomed back and backed away from the mug as she's pouring, as I was rotating that camera. Now the next shot is actually one of my favorites in this whole sequence. Things that are challenging in a shot like this, because you've got multiple movements, so we're rolling the can across the table into one hand, then she's picking it up, going kind of across her body to pull off the cap, right? So that the whole time the camera's following this action along, and then finally the hand's going across and then down to over the mug to start spraying the whipped cream. All in all, I think this one turned out fantastically. So for the next sequence, the next clip in this sequence, it was a close-up of the whipped cream. So first, I just got a nice standard close-up, just panned a little bit and moved a little bit forward, just to have a little bit of movement and motion. I think what's key here in sequences like this is to always have some kind of motion. So even for something like this, where I wasn't moving a lot, the focus was just on the whipped cream coming out, I still moved the camera a bit just to still have some kind of movement and motion. But I wanted to make the movement there a little more subtle and understated because her hand with whipped cream was moving a lot, right? Then, once again, another simple shot is next. I had Kristen put her hand in the bowl. I focused on it like where I wanted it to be. And then I had her remove her hand, and then I zoomed in a little bit with the camera to start it off, hit record, and then I backed out and I told her when to put her hand down. So when it would kind of, her hand would go down at the moment where my camera was at that focal point, right? So that also took a little bit of trial and error to get the focus point right there, but it was pretty simple and easy, and I was moving slow enough. So we decided to have it start off out of focus, come in, hand comes in, then it's in focus, and I keep backing out. So as her hand lifts up with the powder in her hand, now the shot is going out of focus as I keep backing out, right? Then finally, there is the sprinkling of the cocoa powder on top. As you can see, like I filmed it going around like this, and I kept kind of going back and forth while filming that sequence there. And then finally, the final shot. This is like an epic looking hot chocolate. It's big, like the mug is big. It's got a big thing of whipped cream on top. It's got cocoa powder on top. You got a bunch of cookies down beside it. So nothing about this is just like plain and simple and boring, right? So I figured the final shot had to be more than just like, oh, it just looks good just because of what it is. I wanted like the final shot just to have, once again, a little more dynamism and action to it. So that's when I decided to zoom it in as I was rotating that camera to end it off on an angle, right? So I just feel like when you're thinking of how to film these things and frame these things, just get creative with it. Just try different movements, try different motions, try different framing, right? Get creative, and you'll find that your end result is going to be something that you'll be very happy with. Alright, well there you have it. I think that pretty much covers everything, so thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something here today. I hope you can take what you saw here and just start making a bunch of your own cinematic sequences in this style. If you do need any help with that, just please reach out to me. You can just follow me, once again, at Alex S. Perry on Instagram. That's the best way to get in touch with me, reach out to me, so you can just leave a comment on one of my photos, you can send me a DM, and I'll probably respond to you the quickest that way. And while you're at it, if you like this video, then why don't you just hit that like button down below? It would mean the world to me if you would do that. And if you would just, leave me a comment, just letting me know what you thought. While you're at it, I think you should hit that subscribe button, like I mentioned earlier. It would really mean the world to me if you would just support the channel, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that little bell notification icon so you get notified every single time I drop new videos like this one. There is a lot more coming your way, like I always tell you, so stay tuned. Yeah. I think that pretty much wraps up this video. My name is Alex Perry, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.